Welcome to our first webinar for PKK WUCC. I'm Shauna Ebbison, President for the chapter, and I would like to welcome you. The first thing we're going to do before we get started is we are going to take a sound check. Sometimes there's some echo and feedback that are apparent and can be very distracting. I did find some ways to surmount that. So if you look up on your menu bar up at the top, you'll see more. You're going to click on that and it'll drop down a bunch of different options. You're going to click audio settings and click here to switch your mic. Most of these are set to default. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell your computer what microphone you want to use. And that will by default shut off the access to all the other microphones that might be engaged by your computer once you come into a webinar. Whatever you do, do not use the default setting. And if we still have a problem with this, then you can always switch and call in with your phone. We do have a free 1-800 number you can call. If you do need that, then send me a message through here and we'll get that over to you so you can still participate. Another option is to type your messages in the chat window, and that's pretty effective as well. Today, we are talking about professional communication for a digital world. And while by default, with us being a cyberspace chapter, digital communication is part of the foundation of what it is that we do and how we interact with each other. So I believe this is a very important topic of conversation. I will be presenting the webinar tonight. I am Shauna Ebbison. I'm the president of PKK WUCC, and I have been running businesses since I was 9 years old. The first one I had was odd jobs around my neighborhood, and I did so well with that my parents had to file taxes in my first year. So since then, as a grown-up, I have managed 2 successful businesses, one being a pet sitting business and another being in-home daycare that I had for about 8 years. And right now, I help my husband run the front end and back end office of his business. So the 2 I've done by myself, and then the other one with my husband. I have a bachelor's degree in organizational communication from Kaplan University, and I am a strong Walden University student. I am still enrolled. I have achieved my master's in early childhood studies in April of last year, and I have gone on to get a master's certificate in teaching adults in early education. I'm currently in the master's certificate program for digital marketing, and I will finish that up with certification in professional development before I go on to my doctorate program. I'm also a homeschooling educator. I have educated our second grader since she was in kindergarten. I've also educated my older daughter that is now going, a junior in high school. I have written curriculum for the homeschooling and for the daycare on various age groups, as well as some learning challenges, and had some special needs in there as well. So let's take a quick look about what we're going to be talking about today. In the first part, we're going to take a look at netiquette, and I'm sure that a lot of you are going to know what that is, but we're going to talk about those that just briefly for those of you that don't, and why it is so important. The reasons why it is important are changing. As the internet gets bigger and there's more things out there, there's more ways to connect, there's more interactions in different various ways. It's becoming more and more important to understand the importance or to understand the the proper grammar and ways of communicating that way. We're also going to do a brief activity for critical thinking. We're going to talk about word anticipation. In part 2, we're going to talk about communication as the number one sought after skill by employers. In part 3, we're going to talk about 3 common mistakes that are made in professional communication. We're not talking about letters to mom or to your best friend, to your girlfriend. We're talking about professional communications between you and another professional. We're also going to talk and do an activity on perspectives and perception, because these 2 things are key to understanding what is proper and what is improper in a business communication. It is my goal that you leave this webinar with a new sense of and a new appreciation for the importance of business communication. I'm hoping that you'll have a heightened awareness of common practices and behaviors that might seem unprofessional or that will promote a miscommunication and display disrespect that is not intended on your part. It is my goal that we actively engage in activities to help cement and compare proper and improper ways of communicating in a business realm. I also hope that you walk away with this with an awareness of the different rules that apply, or different rules for different tools is what I call it, and understand how there are specific rules that apply to bullet points, to web content, to social media, that wouldn't apply in other forms of business communication. So let's get started. So we're going to talk a little bit about netiquette, and what it is. It's a set of rules that govern your behavior of how you react and respond online. It may be implied. If you look up in your help for your email, there might actually be statements of what is okay and what is not okay, what might be perceived as one way or another. And next, we're going to talk about what constitutes business communication. Business communication is any digital, and I'm going to throw in traditional channels apply to this as well. We're going to focus on the digital, but we're also going to talk about traditional channels, because there are some traditional channels that this applies to. It's any content that has any kind of attachments, any photos, videos, music, links, even links to other websites. All of that constitutes your business or your professional communication. Any link that you have that you provide to a parent or resource that you provide to a parent also becomes part of that business communication. So it's not just the written email that we're talking about. We're talking about everything that goes into. When you hit send, everything that is in that email is part of that business communication. So why is this so important? Why do we need to take an hour out of our time to discuss this? You want to look at the picture right up here. At the top is actually an email sent from a teacher to a parent. And this, you can see, the main thing I wanted you to see are the red corrections to that email. So this is still something that a lot of people struggle with. Professional, doctor, PhD earners, there's still a lot of people that struggle with this. They struggle with the different verb tenses of they are, there. Those kind of things are still prominent. They're prominent in the classroom and they're prominent out of the classroom. If you look at the bottom, there is a printed article that actually went out into the newspaper, and this was actually titled, "College Really Isn't Necessary." And I kind of chuckle at this because obviously by the looks of the red marks, college was necessary for not only the writer but for the editor of the newspaper as well. So these kind of things in a professional view, when you're looking through that professional lens, this is going to also speak of your capabilities and competencies to others around you. So not only do I look at this and see, issues with the author, but it bleeds into her supervisor, the editor, because the editor didn't catch this either. So these are certain things that you need to be aware of why this is so important. It might not directly come from you, but someone in your organization, someone in your classroom, a coworker, that can still point back to you and have negative connotations towards you for something that you haven't even done. So we're going to talk about Aaron Higgins today. Aaron Higgins is looking forward to applying to, this is actually his curriculum vitae for a position as an 8th grade English teacher. This position has been open for about 4 months right now. And just out of just a quick glance, we were able to find all these different marks on his vitae that is raising red flags to us. So even without seeing the content, his application is set aside and is not even considered. Now let's take another look. 6 months later, the position is still open. Aaron Higgins works with someone to help with the curriculum vitae. We have a wonderful resource for this at Walden that will actually go through their career development. They will actually help you with writing your curriculum vitae, and it is definitely something that I would encourage anyone who's looking to change jobs to do. So this is Aaron Higgins' new curriculum vitae, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty impressive. It is organized very nicely. The bullet points are centered with proper spacing, so they're very easy to see. Now I can focus on not the grammatical errors. I can focus on the content. What's different between this Aaron Higgins and this Aaron Higgins? This Aaron Higgins has a better shot because I'm able to focus on the content of his curriculum vitae, where I couldn't even get past it to move on to look at the content. So let's talk about some of these rules that govern those decisions. 5 rules for business communication are always provide a greeting and a closure. The first thing, we're going to go back to Aaron Higgins. I'm not saying this Aaron Higgins is going to get the job because there's something missing from his curriculum vitae. I do not have a cover letter. Cover letters are very important, and I will not consider an application without them. The reason being is because this here will tell me all about his skills. It says nothing about his personality. It says nothing about what his drive is. I don't have any personal information in this. This is skills only. So that cover letter is very important to me. So always provide a greeting and a closure. And with that, it means to always send cover letters with applications for employment. In your greeting, always send it to or address it to a specific individual. There's so many different resources on the internet that there's no reason why we can't find out who the hiring manager is for a position that we're interested in. If you are truly interested in that, then you need to show your interest, do the legwork, and get that information. To whom it may concern no longer applies. There's too many different resources out there, including picking up the phone and old traditional channels and call the business to find out who it is to send it to. That initiative will pay off for you in the future. Never use all caps or italicize. I'll say that too. Italicize a word or a thought in order to highlight that, because that different perceptions see things different ways. So what you might think is an excited yay could be something totally different and mean something else to someone else, where that you're yelling at them, or an italicized word, depending on what that word means, could insult the person that you're sending it to. So shy away from those things as much as you can. So let's recap for a second. We have digital or professional communication includes emails and digital content used in those communications. And I will also inject that traditional means of communication also includes anything you put in that box, anything you put in that envelope. So if you're sending a box of something to someone in your organization, if you're doing a mail out for someone, then anything that you put in that box along with that letter becomes part of your business communication. Netiquette is a set of rules that govern your online behavior. It includes traditional grammar and sentence mechanics. It is technical writing to the hilt. Business netiquette is important because it can be the defining difference between you and someone else that is just as qualified as you are. And it demonstrates that attention to detail. In this picture here, this whole entire shelf is put on clearance because the word bird is spelt wrong. So while spelling the word bird might not be a very big deal, well, when you put it in the scheme of how many times that has been misspelled on every single product, that becomes a major problem for that business. We are in the business of education, so this might not seem like it applies to us. Anytime that you put something in an email form or to a parent, how many have actually sent out group emails where you're emailing more than one person? So when you think of it in terms of that, where you're emailing several parents all at once, talking about, let's say that we're setting up a parent-teacher conference night, and you want to let all your parents know that haven't already secured a time with you, that you have specific times available. So you send out something to everybody, and you accidentally put 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. instead of 4 p.m. Or let's say you put 3 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. on by mistake. And that went out to everyone. So while it might not seem that big of a deal, I mean, it's one number off, but look how many people it affected. That is why netiquette is so important. Never use all caps or italicize in order to highlight a word or an idea. To whom should you address? Always to a specific individual. Dear sir or dear ma'am does not work anymore. You have to have that name to send it to. The do's and don'ts. Always send a cover letter. Always, always, always send a cover letter. And never mention your shortcomings whenever you're looking to apply for a job. They already know why they don't want to hire you. You need to convince them why they do. So let's move on to part 2, the most sought after business skills, or the most sought after skills are skills in communication. I'm going to give you a couple of moments. I want to see who can and who cannot read this quip. Right away, we see some that can and some who can't. Kind of a mixed bag here. Some of us aren't going to have any problem reading this at all. So that's all right. We're going to give you a few minutes, and we still got some that are trying to read it here. It's hard, but it's getting easier as I read along. Okay, so we have different levels here. So there you go. And being the grammar geek that I am, I had to actually fix the grammar that was in there as I put it up. If you can read this, you have a strange mind too. Can you read this? Only some people can. I couldn't believe that I could actually understand what I was reading. The phenomenal power of the human mind. According to a researcher at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter what order the letters in a word are. The important thing is that the first and last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the mind does not read every letter itself, but the word as a whole. Amazing, huh? Yeah, and I thought that spelling was important. If you can read this, share it. Well, yeah, spelling is still important because as you can see with my red marks here, my eye still stops at a misspelled word. My eye still stops at improper punctuation. And so does a great many people. In fact, so many eyes stop that it is affecting the ability or to actually successfully find a job. And the reason why I say that is because written and oral communication skills are the number one sought after skill by employers. And the second is analytical skills, those creative thinking skills, detail oriented. The computer literacy is third. So as you can see, if these skills are not visible in your application for employment, if they don't show in your cover letter, then the person that's reviewing those instruments are going to think that they don't exist or that you haven't honed those skills yet. So with that, we're going to talk about some common mistakes. There's 3 common mistakes in business communication. The first one, and I can guarantee you it will get you in almost every communication that you have at least once during the day, is professionalism. A common misconception is that professional communication and personal communication are permissible or permeable. That's not necessarily true. When you're sending a letter, whether it's an email or a letter to your boss or to a parent, having a little winky face in there probably is not appropriate. Even if it's a friendly letter, strongly suggest against mixing those 2 levels of communication. Number 2 is grammatical errors. Proper spelling and word usage narrowly escapes the number 1 spot for mistakes made in professional communication. Punctuation is seconded. Omitting or misusing punctuation is a leading blunder in online and traditional communications. So this is a big deal. And it's something we are all guilty of. The most common behavior that discredits your level of professionalism is the use of personal tone. So when you're writing your boss or a parent or having that professional communication, make sure that you're using a business tone. We're not talking, you're not going to send your best friend, your brother, your mom, your curriculum vitae and apply to them for a job. So make sure that you have that professional tone to exude your professionalism to that person that you're talking with. Avoid using abbreviations. Typos is another really big problem, and spell check is a wonderful tool. Spell check is not something I'm going to say don't use. I'm saying spell check the spell checker. The spell check isn't going to recognize the difference between using their, T-H-E-I-R, or their, T-H-E-R-E. It thinks both words are correct, so it is not going to flag that as a problem. So you want to make sure that you're spell checking the spell check. The use of emoticons we touched on briefly just a minute ago, and that is something you definitely want to stray away from in professional communication. Even if you guys are on a friendly first name basis, that's great. Let the personal tone stop at first name basis. Those emoticons need to be reserved for personal communications. The inaccurate word usage we just talked about for a few minutes. Poor use of white space is another big one, especially when you're sending your curriculum vitae to someone or an application for a position. You want to make sure that you have command of your white space. You need to have the same number of spaces in between your paragraphs as all the way through your curriculum vitae. Your use of white space for those bullet points needs to be consistent throughout. And if you have, let's go back really quick. We're going to go back real quick and look at Mr. Higgins. Now let's take a really quick look at Mr. Higgins' bullet points right here. Yes, this is all, space was used, okay, but if you look up here at the first, right underneath his experience, there's all this blank white space, and that space is out of touch with the rest of his curriculum vitae. The same thing down here. It's not good use of the white space. And that's what makes this look so much better. Everything flows very nicely because the white space is no longer an eye stopper. All right, lengthy and wordy content, and my doctoral professors out there, I'm sure that you guys would be ones to cheer about the lengthy or wordy content. And we want to avoid lengthy and wordy content, and we want to be concise in what it is we're saying. Multiple topics covered should be very much avoided, and I know I'm guilty of this, especially in the PKK WUCC emails back and forth with my leadership team. We have so much to cover. There's been a couple of times where I've actually put the various topics I put together in a PowerPoint just because there was so much to cover that email wasn't necessarily the best means to be able to do that. When you send your emails, try and keep it down to a 1 or 2 topic minimum. If you need to do more than that, have a little spot at the very beginning of your email where you have a table of contents, whether it's a table or bullet points, that will give your recipient an idea of what to expect in your email. Non-sans font type, this is kind of controversial. Times New Roman is a font type that is probably the best choice for any kind of business communication and professional communication. The most common grammatical errors are improper word usage and punctuation. Punctuation we're going to talk about separately because that is such a big deal. I mean, it is the number one mistake made in professional communication. And why this is such a big deal is because these are professionals communicating with professionals. So this is not something that anyone is immune to. Everybody has difficulties with this one time or another. So we're going to talk in this part, we're going to talk about the grammatical errors, the word usage, Contractions versus possessiveness. Uh, there's a reason why APA formatting does not like contractions because they lead to confusion. Contractions and possessiveness are very difficult to differentiate, but they totally change the meaning of those sentences. And that we're going to push over and talk a little bit more when we discuss punctuation. Inaccurate word usage, we talked about that. Inconsistent formatting, we've talked about that. And the white space, these are all things that we have talked about already. But those are the key grammatical errors that we're talking about. The most common punctuation errors are simply by not using them. The absence of necessary punctuation is the biggest problem in this area of mistakes. The unnecessary use of quotation marks. I'm not sure if any of you have received papers or graded papers that have just quotations all over the place. I've seen this in email writings that I have received. Quotes are everywhere. Anytime anything has ever, they see something, a sign on the street, and they write it to me in quotation marks. Drives me absolutely insane. Another one is a misplacement of the apostrophe. In children's, the apostrophe does not come after the S. It comes before the S because children is already plural. Common mistakes like that. And of course, our new famous punctuation for emoticon smiley faces in professional correspondence. So we're going to do a little activity here, and I'm almost certain that a lot of you will get why this particular sentence is incorrect. I went to the store to get milk, semicolon. They are open all night long. What is wrong with this sentence? Okay, yeah. What is wrong is actually the word. The semicolon is perfectly in its spot doing the job it's supposed to do. The word they is actually what is wrong with this sentence. Milk is not open all night. They is directly corresponding to milk instead of to the store. So that and the possessive or the they is plural. Nothing in that sentence before it was plural. It's the store, meaning one, to get milk, meaning one. So the word they is out of place. All right, what about this one? Okay, we're getting kind of a mixture of yes, it's correct, or no, I think the semicolon needs to be a comma. I think it needs to go after, however. This is actually correct. I am available Tuesday is a sentence all by itself. However is a helping verb. So Wednesday would be better is also a sentence all by itself. It can stand alone. So the semicolon is actually in its proper place in that sentence. Take a look at this. I cracked up. I've actually received, this is one that I've actually received one like this, and they are hilarious. But it's also one that will never be considered for a position in my school. Are these two statements true about commas? Commas are used to separate a list of items. Much indeed. Commas change the meaning of a sentence. Incredibly so. This is the difference between, I use this with the kids in the younger grades. Let's eat, Grandma, is a lot different than let's eat, Grandma. And here, I don't think she's really cooking dogs. So here's a really fun activity. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to look at these pictures, and I just want you to tell me what you see. What do you see in these pictures? So take a few minutes. Now, okay, let's take a look at this first picture here. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. So right here, we're going to take a look at this picture on the top left. And some of you guys saw the me. How many of you didn't see the word you in there? Okay, so can you guys see my mouse all right? You can see that? Let me see. I'm seeing some people say they can see my mouse, some people say they can't. So let's okay, I'm looking to see if there's a setting that I need to pick. Excuse me. Oh, okay. You are seeing it. Okay. So now I've got them saying, yes, I do see the U. If you look at the M, right in the center of the M, you can see we'll make up the U. At the top of the E, there's that hole with a little dot in the middle. That is the O. And if you look at the bottom of the E, the curl of the E will actually make the U in blue. So let's go to the top right picture. I have some say that they saw the sailboat. I see a skull. Actually, you're both correct. If you look up here at the mast where the sail is actually making that part of the end part of the skull. The bucket that everyone's sitting in is actually one of the eye sockets. And if you go to you go straight down, and the bow of the ship is actually the chin. And if you go up a little bit more, you have the socket for the nose, and then right to the left of that, you have the socket for the eye. And that whole crest, the cranium of the skull is actually the moon. And we've got waves going down that make up the indentation of the jawbone of the skull. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Perception is everything, and that's why I really want to hit this home to you. People are going to see things in different ways, so you have to stay mindful of different perceptions outside of your own. So let's take a look at this picture down on the bottom. What do you see in that picture? Okay, we got some saying that they see boats, bridge, clouds, waves. You are all correct. If you look here, look at the very front, you can obviously see the ship. We see the sails. We see it's obviously a ship. And if you count you count back, each one is actually, it's a line of ships. When you enter the clouds up on the top, you look directly under the clouds and you can see the top of the bridge. And in between each ship becomes a pillar. Yep, some are seeing that they see it now. So perception is a very powerful tool, and it's something that we don't always see how other people see. So let's talk a little bit about this. We've talked about three common mistakes that we make in business communication. We have talked about the importance of the cover letter. We've talked about the importance of the grammar and the punctuation, but it still doesn't explain why it's so important. So I want to take a few minutes and talk to you and hear your feedback. Why is that curriculum vitae such an important and imperative part of business communication? So when you're writing up your curriculum vitae, I want you to think ask yourself, how much is this piece of paper worth to me? Because the hiring manager that you give it are going to judge your piece of paper and try and decide if that piece of paper is worth $47,000 a year. That's a pretty expensive piece of paper. So they want to make sure that they have the right piece of paper in front of them that's going to take over that job position. So when you're looking at your curriculum vitae, I want you to think about how much is that piece of paper worth to you. So how important now, if you're looking at a job that's, $87,000 a year, $120,000 a year, now how important is it that we get this right the first time? How important is it that you put your best foot forward to be seriously considered for this position? And this is how a lot of hiring managers weed out the best of the best, the cream of the crop. If you have errors in there, they're going to look for someone who doesn't. So you're talking about people that are getting possibly hundreds of applications for one position. So it becomes very easy to weed them out doing stuff like this, any kind of improper grammar, or the white space is a big one, because the first thing that they're going to see is the white space balance in your paper. So if you have a paper that's set up really well, then they're going to move you over to the one where they're going to actually get to the point. Your goal is to get that hiring manager to the point where they consider the content. So let's get this professional communication part down so they can actually consider the content. And classes that you're in, if you're still continuing in higher education, if you're still pursuing advanced degrees, this is the perfect time for you to practice these skills. Practice them with your professors. Practice them in your writings, in your applications, in your assignments for the week. And take advantage of Walden's Writing Center. Take advantage of the Career Center, because they have webinars themselves that talk explicitly about curriculum vitae and how to write a good one. My a lot when I was putting mine together, and it was like night and day when I was done with them. And they will actually, if you wanted to send it into them, then they will send it back to you with their feedback. So those are some wonderful tools that you have available to you as a Walden student. Okay, we have a question of, is it okay? I didn't know it was okay to contact the organization by phone. Yes, it is okay to do that. It's actually a good idea to do that, because you're showing them the initiative you might be looking for just by doing that. we got a comment here. This has been really enlightening. I love the perception activity. Thank you. That's a lot of fun for me. I love perceptions. They're I'm sorry, my mic gave out. There we go. As I was saying, I love perceptions and talking about different perspectives. Um, it's not always easy to see and perceive things as other people might perceive, but it is such good practice. So anytime that you can go, this is actually a psychological, psychology domain, but anytime that you can go in and you can find pictures, practice looking at the various to perceive a picture and thinking about what and considering, importantly, considering what somebody else might. So when you're looking at this, let's go back to those perception pictures really quick. There they are. Let's go back to those perception pictures really quick. When you see this, is it easy to now understand why somebody else might find your email offensive if it's in italicized? Yes, it's easy. Is it easy now to understand why or to consider why a certain phrase of words would upset somebody? Indeed. Same thing with all caps. This activity is to help you understand that even though you don't see these things as being unprofessional, somebody else might. So you want to make sure that there's no way or minimize those potentials to be able to, for someone else to see this as unprofessional on any level, and to be sensitive to that. And these kind of activities will help keep you mindful of different perspectives. Thank you all for joining us today. I encourage you to visit the resources if you have your smartphone available, whether it's Android or iPhone. This is a QR code that will provide you all of the resources that I used in putting this together. For those of you that don't have your iPhones at the ready, I do have those listed on the next screen. We'll just give everyone a few minutes to take a picture of that. If you are interested in attending another seminar, please join. You can go to our website, and on any of the pages at the very bottom, there is a spot where you can subscribe to the website. And when you do that, then you will be one of the first to be informed of any kind of upcoming webinars or upcoming activities that we would have that you might enjoy being involved in. If you're not a member of PDK WUCC, I greatly encourage you to do that right now. Right now, our admission prices or our membership prices are at an all-time low, and those will be changing here shortly. So I really encourage you to become members now. For those of you that are members already, I thank you for your loyalty and your tenure. In PDK right now, we have our director. We have tenured members that have been with us for over 12 years. And for you guys, I want to applaud you and say thank you very much. You guys have seen us through some pretty difficult times, and we're in the process now of restructuring. And I really want to thank you guys for supporting us through these hardships. If you are a new member, we do have one new member. If you are a new member or you are thinking about becoming a member, please check out our website, it's pdkwucc.org. We have a lot of activities, a lot of opportunities for you to get involved, a lot of professional development opportunities like this one that are coming up, including if you are interested in presenting a webinar like this, then we have that opportunity as well. Anyone can request a copy of the presentation here. It's $45 if you're not a member of PKK WUCC. If you are a member of Walden University or a member of PKK International, contact me and we'll find a membership rate for you guys as well. All these webinars and resources for the webinars or from the webinars are available to members for no charge at all. And you will find them once you join our website and become a member of our website, then you will have access to them as well. So real quick, I would also like to invite you to our PKK Quick Bite. I host those every Friday night at 7:30 Central. It's Central Daylight Time right now. We are actually GTM -5 right now for daylight savings time. So it'd be 7:30 every Friday night. We do between a 5 and 15-minute, just little bites of what's going on currently with PKK WUCC. We are also having a membership drive with PKK International where members can sponsor new members. So what we're doing is we have a sponsor of the week where we select a member that will be the sponsor for that program all week long. And right now our sponsor is Jennifer Pullman, and our previous sponsor was Marion Carpenter. And before that, I led the race with being the first one out. I was the sponsor for about 3 or 4 days. And next week we will have a new sponsor. So this is a really incredible time to join PKK International, to join PKK WUCC. And if you are interested in continuing your advanced degree program, I strongly consider that you look into Walden University. I thank you all for your time and for your attendance and your contributions to this program. You guys are what really makes it work. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day, and keep looking forward.